Good morning, Andres Nava.
Good morning.
We at this point call Metro One Metro Juan because Andres' full name is Juan Andres Nava, and he's been at the helm for about 5 years, stewarding the current vision and the current direction of Metro One Commercial, QOZB.
Incredible. It's been incredible.
And it's been a 12-year journey since Andres joined the firm. So here we are at the Climate Innovation Hub, the current home of Metro One Commercial, after 14 years in Wynwood. And back in the day, 12 years ago, Andres Nava joined the firm as an intern, as an assistant, and now is the managing director, managing broker of Metro One Commercial. Had one of the best years that we've had in business last year, exceeding over $150 million in transaction volume. And very proud to call my partner, my friend, one of the most honest, kind, diligent people in the industry, a father now, and an amazing husband, and balancing and juggling all of this together. So I'm happy to be here with you, Andres.
Happy to be here as well. Thank you, Tony, for having me and all of those nice words. Funny enough, I don't know if you noticed in April Fools, I changed the website and everything and the logo to Metro Juan for like a whole day. Didn't tell anybody. So
I did. What originally brought you to Metro One, and what was the landscape of the brokerage business back in the day?
Look, I joined in 2013, right? Back in the day, that's already 12 years ago, the brokerage world was not what it is today. Today, you have a lot of different boutique brokerages. It's a very ample landscape. Back then, it was just Metro One doing deals in the cool neighborhoods, and that's it. There was a couple of other players, but really Metro One dominated the market. And I noticed that right away when I was back in the day, in college, trying to figure out what I wanted to do as a career. And I started hanging out in neighborhoods like Wynwood and Little River, and I saw Metro One everywhere. And I've always been an artist. I play music. I almost became a musician. But I was like, I wanted to be more involved with the culture part of it than necessarily playing music for a living. And I didn't know that real estate could be done at this level, meaning cool neighborhoods, cool tenants, the creative class working inside these cool warehouses. That was something that that I did not know that existed, and I definitely did not know that there was a player in the industry that dominated that market. So back in the day, I was just delivering maps in my spare time for the Wynwood Arts District Association, which later on became the Business Improvement District. And in that experience, my brother, who was running it, he knew you, and he was like, look, I think you need to meet Tony. They're doing excellent things. Like, whatever you see that these warehouses are housing and this industry, this is what Metro One is doing. So I sent an email. I knocked on your door, didn't answer my emails for a little bit, which is okay. I get those nowadays, so I understand. You have to be annoying and persistent to be able to get this job, because that's almost what you need in this business, that persistence, right? So I kept following up until you guys gave me a chance to join the company as an intern. And from there, the rest is history. You kind of have to prove yourself in this industry. And I like to think that I did that in these 12 years. But the reality is that the landscape back then, it was just Metro One running the show when it came to the creative industrial warehouses, the urban core real estate. And I wanted to be a part of that magic and of that action.
Yeah. You fit perfectly in our ecosystem and our ethos because you are an artist, you are a musician. I consider myself a real estate artist as well, using the warehouse, which we're in now, as a canvas for transformation of urban areas. And the heart and soul of any neighborhood or any community is the creative class, is the artist, is the makers, is the small businesses, the Panther Coffees, the Zach the Bakers, all of those tenants that were our community, really. It wasn't just a client or a transaction. And that's when people ask about, well, what is the impact that you're having? People don't realize now when they drive around Wynwood with all these sweeping mid-rises everywhere and all of this activity and all of this traffic, for many, many years in the beginning, it was a ghost town. There was nothing going on, just vision, grit, and heart and soul. But we felt it. It was this palpable energy. And actually, that is what we don't have anymore, is that underground vibe and grit that has kind of been lost in the transformation and the commercialization.
Spread it out. I mean, it's
And
still
it's-
around
and
the
it-
city, but it's spread out. It was consolidated in one neighborhood, and now you have it in Little Haiti. You have it maybe in La Paz a little bit, North Miami as well.
Can you share a particular deal or project in your earlier career at Metro One that felt like a turning point or symbolic for you, that was exciting?
Well, I can think of two, right? And I want to bring up also two because Wynwood and Little Haiti are the two neighborhoods that to the date they're the most active submarkets for us. In Wynwood, I think the Wynwood Arcade, which now is known as the Wynwood Jungle, is probably one of the most transformative deals. You sold the property to Eastern Capital back in the day. I remember opening the door during the due diligence and trying to kick a dead rat to the side so the buyer wouldn't see it. The building was like, when it rained, it leaked everywhere. So it was like, I was like, I didn't know what I was walking into starting this job. I thought it was a little bit more glamorous, but once you start getting into it, you're like wearing long shirts in the middle of the summer. But anyways, that deal was very transformative because I saw for the first time in my career the whole cycle from acquisition to conceptualization of the project. I actually designed the first logo for that building.
Oh, wow.
Which was a W and an A
Right.
together, and the A kind of looked like the staircases of the building. So conceptualized the project, leased it up, brought tenants like the Salty Donut, which the Salty Donut now has over 10, 15, 20 locations nationwide, started in this building.
Right.
And worked through the first iteration of the leasing of the project. Then after some time, a new buyer came in, Black Lion, and they rebranded the building, repurposed it a little bit, expanded the rooftop. Now it's called the Wynwood Jungle. And we are doing the leasing today for that project still. So after many iterations and other brokers worked on it over the years, but we just signed an amazing lease with 27 Club Coffee, which should be announced soon. But I think we can talk about it in this context. And I'm very excited about that one because Machine Gun Kelly is a partner in that coffee shop. And we are working on a couple of other deals on the remaining spaces, which we can't announce yet. But that definitely was in Wynwood a very transformative deal for me early in my career. There were other ones that were probably more important to my career after, a little bit more into my career. But that one was definitely one of the most important ones early in my career in Wynwood. In Little Haiti, though, I think the Magic City Innovation District has been without a doubt one of the most important projects for me personally, but also for this firm. I mean, you assembled the project. Then once it was assembled, I came in and started the lease up. When it became the Magic City Innovation District and got conceptualized back in 2016, 2015, we officially, started leasing up and fixing up 20 different buildings and brought tenants like Ultra Paddle and Roffit, Diana Lowenstein Gallery, now more recently Say, which has turned out to be a cultural transformational tenant for the neighborhood because they're bringing personally some of my favorite artists, Steven.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you a nice little story if we have the time. When my baby was born, Augie, he in the room we were playing this artist that my wife and I love called Helado Negro, and it's just music that is very calming.
Which means black ice cream.
Black ice cream, but it's like easygoing music, guitar, voice. It's nice music. In December, so 3 months after he was born, he played at Say. And I went with my wife. It was the first time that we went out after he was born, just her and I. And we had an opportunity to talk to Roberto, that's his real name, tell him the story. He was so excited about it. He signed the record to Augie, and I have it framed and put in my wall. So like that type of ability to combine what I love with the real estate aspect, it's exactly what Metro One is about, right? If I was just doing, corporate leases in suburban America, we would not be able to have these experiences, right?
Right.
And it's what keeps the light on, not only in the office, but inside our hearts, right? So those two projects, because of that, were very transformational personally and to my career.
And I think that's where the whole placemaking aspect comes into what we're doing. It's not just making a commission. And of course, commissions pay the bills and transactions are important. And we're co-creating culture with our tenants, with our users, with the artists, with the musicians. Everybody is a player in the scene, in the movie that we're creating together, which is expanding culture and all those things that you mentioned. And I'm proud to say that Metro One has essentially been the university for the boutique placemaking firms in the urban core of Miami. And some people are like, well, you created your own competition. And I think I believe, no, we've expanded the industry, and we've extended it, and we've helped start a new industry in a way. And I'm proud of that. And yeah, is there competition? And of course we compete for listings and market share. That's always going to be the case, but how did you witness this impact that Metro One had as the university, Metro One University, for all these talented, up and coming young brokers? What was that experience like for you, and how do you see the landscape now as it's evolved in the last 20 years? Because we've been able to complete over $4 billion in non-institutional small transactions over the years. That's an accomplishment, because whether if you're a residential luxury agent and you're doing 10, 20, $50 million deals versus a $500,000 lease or a $300,000 lease, it requires a lot more cheddar, a lot more, making the deals, making the sausages, they say, to get that done. And it requires a lot more high touch.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's going back to your first point. We always believe that a high tide rises all boats, right? And we also are in this company, a company that has an abundance mentality. So collaboration is key, right? And also think about the landscape then versus now. Back then also the market was much smaller, right? Yeah. Right now, Miami is the center of the universe. Yeah. And I wish I was exaggerating, but I'm not. I mean, Miami really, like, when New York doesn't do well, Miami wins, right? When other parts of the world, their economies are not doing well, Miami wins. So we're kind of like in a different stage or different market right now in this city, that it has become one of the hottest submarkets or the hottest markets in the entire world, right? So there's going to be a lot more business for everybody, and we can't possibly manage it all, right? No person, no company can manage it all. So at that point, it becomes a question of what's your ethos or your focus versus the other company, and so on and so on. And that happens at an individual level as well. But I think one thing that we all share, and I'm very happy to see that between the ecosystem of the graduates of the Metro One University, is that we all care deeply about the communities that we work in. And that's something that you didn't see much before, maybe, right? It's just sometimes it was just about making a sale, making a commission. And there wasn't too much intentionality about selling it to the right person, leasing it to the right person, keeping the local communities alive. And I believe that that was a mentality that just completely got spread out in the creation of this company. And that's a beautiful thing to be very proud of, right? Because all of the people that you mentioned and many more that came through these doors, and the people that we have here today, they deeply care about the communities that they work in. And that's why you see that even though Wynwood has its ups and downs, today it's a very thriving community. It's some people call it the Silicon Valley of the South. It's definitely a tech hub now. Spotify is there. Amazon just signed the lease and it's about to move in. There's multiple award-winning restaurants like Uchi, Pastis, Michelin star restaurants like Hidden, which we did the deal with in Wynwood. So that's very special, right? You can't disregard that, even though there's been a little bit of the artists moving out of the neighborhood, but that has nothing to do with the real estate game. I mean, frankly, people don't talk about this, but this happens all over the world. Artists just go to the cheaper neighborhood all the time, right? So sadly, it's part of the system, right? They make a neighborhood cool, then they have to move to the next neighborhood. Right now, you see it a lot in Little River, but Little River is another great example. All the players that are here, they deeply care about keeping the local community alive. Little Haiti is predominantly or has been Haitian businesses. A lot of the businesses that are here today, they're still locally owned. But there's, of course, a lot of the new, right? And the new is very sensitive to the old. And that combination and that ability to coexist and co-create is an art. It's an art form, and it requires professionals that are deeply committed to their communities. It's not easy. A lot of people get criticized for it. But the reality is that if you have people that are well-intentioned and want to do the best thing for their communities, at the end of the day, I believe we will be able to figure it out, right?
Yeah, for sure. And that's a really good point, because a lot of you talked about what many people describe as gentrification or pushing out the artists and the creatives that help make a neighborhood cool. And it's been going on for generations. This is not a new thing. You have places like Williamsburg in New York, the Pearl District in Seattle, and other places that have become gentrified or popular or commercialized. And I like to think that we helped soften that process by really working alongside these tenants like Plan the Future that ended up leaving Wynwood because it was priced out, and then we ended up finding them a location, helping them buy their own real estate, securing their future, and making them, build generational wealth so that they were sustainable. We were able to play a role in not only inspiring a next generation of brokers through our ethos of really caring deeply for the community and the tenants that are part of it, but also the many lives and the families that we touched through actually caring and wanting to show them a better way than just being at the mercy of a landlord as well. And so I think that is a hybrid path forward where, like Nina Johnson we talked about, who was a very well-known gallerist in Wynwood that moved to Little Haiti and bought her property there. And there was an article in the Wall Street Journal 8 years ago talking about this trend and Magic City and all the things that were going on. And so it really has been quite a learning evolution over the last 20 years. And I'm really excited and grateful for what we were able to accomplish and the impact that we've had. And like you said, Miami is now a completely different market. I mean, there's tens of thousands of residential units in Wynwood where 10 years ago there were none.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize that. 15 years ago, Midtown Miami was a FEC rail yard where we have photographs of containers piled 20 high. That was a derelict, abandoned railroad yard that is now with 10,000 units in it and hundreds of thousands of feet of mostly national tenant retail, but also some small independent. And that, and then you look at Edgewater. Edgewater didn't exist 15 years ago, and it now has Missoni Home and all of these crazy luxury buildings at $2,000-$3,000 a square foot, and it blows your mind because this was this was a place you didn't go in the day or the night because it was unsafe. And it's just mind blowing to see our fingerprints, in these deals and these various things. And we were driving around and we walked into our old office in Wynwood, and there's still in the development companies there still has the Metro One Properties signs on each of the desks. And so we have a lasting imprint in what was going. The old Sunbelt rental site is now Amara. Is that what
Amara Wynwood, yes.
Amara Wynwood. And I think you were involved in brokering that deal.
We were involved in brokering that deal, yes. And now in the leasing of it, we're working with two very exciting tenants that we can't announce yet, but it's going very well. And that's a great example because we are able to tell the story of the neighborhood and that location and communicate it better than anybody else. But it's what the context of the history provides to us. It arms us to do a better job and really tell the story of these neighborhoods in a way that is exciting as well, because they're very exciting neighborhoods.
And there's going to be a train stop there, and there's going to be a train stop here. And we were involved in that whole process of bringing the train stop to Magic City on 62nd Street, which is coming in the next 2 or 3 years. The one in Wynwood with the Ramos brothers, who had Bon Vivant, our landlord, for 14 years through the pandemic when things were really difficult. And so we've been able to survive and thrive for the last 20 years through up and down and side markets when no one believed in Wynwood, no one believed in the design district, no one believed in the urban core. We believed it, and we created an industry around it, urban real estate, and so many people have benefited from it. And it's incredible just to drive around, the urban core of Miami in just a very short period of time. You're talking 10 years. I mean, look at Miami World Center. I mean, it's like people riding around with baby carriages and all kinds of stuff, where it was just the first activity that happened there was Space Nightclub. And I was there the weekend it opened when it changed Miami forever, because it turned Miami into a 24-hour city almost overnight in that district. And that was zoning. And so being involved in the land use and the zoning, the Wynwood NRD, so not only being a broker, but also being a developer and being a placemaker and getting into that really helped us understand how all of the drivers help to create thriving places. And that has informed my career, which has helped me really set up for the future of cities and for Phoenix Arts and Innovation District and the work that we're doing, because there were a lot of lessons learned. It wasn't always rainbows and butterflies. You know, there were difficult times, very difficult to get financing, not a lot of people believing in the markets, appraisals being way off. Like being a pioneer is not an easy path, and it requires a lot of what I call intestinal fortitude, to really be able to, grit it out. But the reward at the end of the rainbow is magical when you see the results of your work. And that's what we're seeing now as we're looking back and seeing, and it's important to take that pause and see Miami is very different than it was 5 years, 10 years, 20 years ago. And Metro One's imprints are forever going to be part of that. And that's why I'm really so grateful for the 12 years that you've put into it, and all of the people that have come through and have contributed, are a big part of that story. So thank you for your contribution.
Thank you for, this is a beautiful industry, and it's been a great school. So, looking forward to the future.